our lesson for today. We are so excited to be here because this is the last lesson we're going to have on Gideon.
Yes. So last time we talked about how God told Gideon to go down to the Midianites camp and listen to what they were saying. And so when he was there, he had a man narrate of his dream that he had of a small barley loaf that rolled down to the camp and that and then it crashed
into one of their tents.
It bounced on one of their tent and it crashed it and fell flat like a chapati. Yes, and so that the interpretation of that dream was that Gideon was going to attack the Midianites and that he was going to defeat them. And that gave Gideon the confidence and the courage to fight the Midianites. And so after he worshipped God, he fell on his knees and he worshipped God. He rose up and went back to the camp. And so he went and woke up all the other men.
Told them, get up.
Yeah,
it's time to attack.
And he told them now is the time to attack. And so what he did, he lined them up and then he divided them into 3 groups of 100 men each. And then he gave them instructions. But first he gave them 3 items. So he gave them a ram's horn, a clay jar, and a torch. So those are the 3 things that he gave them. That is what they were going to use to attack the Midianites.
No
sword, no guns, no all that.
It was just those 3
items. But after that, he gave them instructions that they were very important and they were supposed to follow these instructions.
So the first instruction was they were to take their clay jar and they were to cover their torches.
Their torches with the clay jar so that the light from the torches was hidden inside the clay jar.
So that the enemies don't see the light, and then also the light doesn't go out.
So those are the first instructions that Gideon gave to the children, to the 300 men. Then the next instruction that he gave them was that they were supposed to keep their eyes on Gideon while in the battlefield, while in the Midianite camp. So all this time they were supposed to look at Gideon, and whatever Gideon did, they also were supposed to do.
They were supposed to copy him, and they were supposed to do exactly what he does. And then Gideon told his men, when you see me and the 100 men that I am with, when you see us blow our horns, you're supposed to blow your horns too.
And shout.
You're supposed to blow your horns, you're supposed to shout. And when you shout, you're going to say, a sword for God and for Gideon.
So and that is what they were supposed to say. And he told them that once they shouted that, they were all this time, remember, they're supposed to be looking at what Gideon was doing. So when they got down to the Midianite camp, they spread out throughout the whole.
Remember they were in 3 groups. One group was with Gideon, those were 100. So they stood on one side, and then the next 100 on their side, and then the next 100 on the other side, and they all spread out and surrounded the Midianite camp.
And all this time when they were coming and getting into the Midianite camp, no one saw them. This is because when they got through the gate, the soldiers in charge of guarding or manning the gate were changing shifts, so no one was really keen to see who was going in and who was coming out.
And if they weren't changing shifts, the rest of them were asleep.
All of them were asleep, so everyone was sound asleep, and so they did not see Gideon and his 300 men coming into the camp.
And so getting into position.
And so they got there and they got into position. So there were 100 men on one side, 100 men on another side, and 100 men on another side. And Gideon was with one of the groups. And so they were all looking at Gideon all this time. And so Gideon blew his horn. And all the other men, Gideon together with his men, and all the other men blew their horn, and they shouted, a sword for God and for Gideon.
And the other men did the same thing as soon as they saw this, the first group do that. And after they blew their horns and shouted, Gideon told his men, take your clay jars and shatter them. And all of his men did that, because remember, he had given them the instruction to keep their eyes on him. So they shattered their clay jars, and a bright light from all of the torches
torches.
Yes, it blasted through the entire camp, and it was like a ring around the whole camp. And now because of all of this noise,
the noise was from the shattering jars, so there was a lot of noise. And then the Midianites actually thought that they had been attacked by thousands of soldiers, because there was so much noise, and then there was so much noise, and there was so much light, so they knew
so much chaos.
Yes, they knew they had been attacked.
Yes, and so they all woke up and they were all terrified.
They were all terrified.
Even the camels woke up and they were scared. Remember last time we said there were so many camels like the grains of sand.
Yes.
So they woke up and they were scared and they started a stampede. So because of all of this confusion and everyone running everywhere and all of this fear that they were feeling, the Midianites started attacking anyone that they could reach. So if they could reach you, they would attack you. And they ended up attacking their own friends and their own allies, and they attacked each other and they fought each other, and the Israelites didn't have to do anything.
So the Midianites in their thousands were actually afraid of 300 men in real sense, because of what happened, because God caused confusion amongst them, and they attacked everyone within their reach, and they killed each other. And Gideon and his men didn't have to even raise a finger on either.
They didn't have to fight anyone.
Yeah, they didn't have to fight anyone in the Midianite camp. And so that is how Gideon and his men won a mighty victory against the Midianites on that day.
Yes, exactly. And from this story, we learn that God is always fighting for us, because Gideon only had 300 men, a torch, clay jars, and a ram's horn, and that is all that they used, and they ended up defeating thousands and thousands of Midianites and their friends and their allies, and God won that victory for them.
Yes. So right now we're going to stand up and sing a song that will always remind us that God is on our side and He's fighting every battle for us. So let's all stand up and sing this song.
Okay kids, it's time for us to sing our song, and remember, this song is about how God is always fighting for us and how He is always on our side. So I hope you're all standing up and help us sing this song. God is fighting for us, pushing back the darkness, lighting up the kingdom that cannot be shaken. In the name of Jesus, enemies defeated, and we will shout it out, shout it out. God is fighting for us, pushing back the darkness, lighting up the kingdom that cannot be shaken. In the name of Jesus, enemies defeated, and we will shout it out, shout it out. I will live, I will not die. The resurrection power of Christ alive in me, and I am free in Jesus' name. I will live, I will not die. I will declare and lift Him high. Christ revealed, and I am free in Jesus' name. God is fighting for us, pushing back the darkness, lighting up the kingdom that cannot be shaken. In the name of Jesus, enemies defeated, and we will shout it out, shout it out. Yay! Okay kids, it's time for us to do our craft. Now we've just learned about Gideon's tools of war. He had a ram's horn, a clay jar, and a torch. So now we're gonna draw Gideon's tools, and then we're gonna stick them on a different manila paper so that we can always remember that God is fighting for us, because with these simple tools, Gideon and his 300 men won a mighty victory. So what we're going to need is, we're gonna need our pencils because we're drawing. Then we're going to need colored pencils because we will draw and we will color these tools of ours. So we're gonna need different colors, and then we're going to need 2 sets of manila papers. So we have a yellow one, and this is the one where we're going to draw our items, and then we have a pink one, and this is where we're going to stick our tools, and then we need scissors because we're going to cut up our tools here. So we're going to start by drawing our tools. So the first thing I'm going to draw is the torch. So we have the torch, so we'll start with a letter V. So you draw a straight line down, a very long V. So straight line down and then straight line up in the shape of a letter V. And that will be the base of our torch. And then we need to draw our fire. So we'll take our pencil and we'll draw kind of like a backward C shape with a point at the end. So that it starts to look like fire. And then we'll bring down this point and we'll draw another one so it looks like a flame. So we'll have a tiny V in the middle and we'll move our hand down, still in that kind of C-shaped wave, and then we'll come back up with our last one, and then we'll bring it all the way down. So now we have our torch, and we'll draw light lines in the middle because you know fire normally looks like it has several layers. So these smaller flames in the middle are to act as our layers. Yeah. And we'll color them a different color so they look different, each of them. Like that. So as soon as we're done with our flame, we're gonna go, and the next thing we're going to draw is our ram's horn. So we'll start with, I just turn my paper. So we'll start with a circle on one end, a small circle on one end, and then we'll take our pencil and we'll make a curved line from here, and then we'll curve it up and then round at the end, and then we'll curve it back up to the beginning of our circle. So it looks kind of like a horn. Then we'll come here down and we'll draw kind of like an S-shaped thing. So now it looks like we have a functional horn. Because now there's the first hole here where you blow, and then here where the sound comes out. So now we have our ram's horn. So now we have drawn our torch and our ram's horn. And the last thing we need to draw is our jar of clay. So our jar made out of clay. That's what I meant to say. So now you know how to draw a jar. So just a simple line at the top. So that's going to be the top of our jar. And then a line going down. You can curve it a bit if you want. So a line going down. Then a line at the bottom. And then we'll come here and we'll draw our handle. We'll have a small line here, and that will connect to our handle, the handle of our jar. So we'll draw our jar's handle, we'll bring it down, then we'll draw the rest of the jar. Then you can add a line in the middle of your jar so it looks like it looks like a real handle. So now we have our 3 items. So after we've drawn our 3 items, we get to the fun part, which is coloring them. So you can start coloring from anywhere. So I'm going to start with my torch. So I'm gonna color the torch down here, and I'm gonna color it brown. So because we want our flames to look like a real fire, we're gonna use yellow, and then we're gonna use orange, and then we're gonna use red. So I'm going to start with yellow for the smallest part of my flame, but you can do it you can use any colors that you want. You can make your flame any color that you want it to be. So I'm gonna do yellow first. there we go. We have our first tool done. We have our flame. Remember, you can use any color that you want. You can make your flame as bright or as big as you want. So then we're going to color the ram's horn. So I'm going to leave my ram's horn as brown. So now I'll just move to coloring my ram's horn brown. Okay, so now we've colored our ram's horn, and then we're gonna move on to finish coloring our jars. So you can color your jars made of clay any color that you want, but I'm just going to use brown because I want my jar to be brown. Now that we have all of our tools colored, we're going to cut out each of our tools so we can stick them on our manila paper. So just cut out each of these tools. So we'll start with the So after I've cut out all of our pieces, now we take our pink manila paper and glue and we start sticking all of these pieces to the paper. So we'll start with our ram's horn, because remember, the first thing they did was they blew their ram's horns and they shouted, "A sword for God and for Gideon."
Yeah.
Yes, so when we look at this ram's horn, it will remind us that this is the first thing that Gideon and his men did. So put glue all over the piece. Don't use too much, but make sure you spread the little glue that we use all over the ram's horn paper. And then we'll take it and we'll stick it at the top. Hence the first item we're sticking on. So we'll stick on our ram's horn. And then the next item that we're sticking is the clay jar, because remember the jars had covered the torches. So the next thing after blowing the horn and shouting a sword for God and a sword for Gideon, they shattered the clay jars.
Yes, and that's the next thing. The light from the torches will send.
Yes, so that's the next thing that will stick. So again, very little glue, but spread it everywhere. And then stick your clay jar. So after sticking the jar, next thing we stick is the torch, because the torch created a bright light, and then
scared the Midianites.
Yes, that made them think that they've been surrounded by thousands and thousands of men, but it was only 300.
Yeah.
So after we stick our torch, at the top of our paper, we're just going to write Gideon's tools of war. Because with these three simple tools, God gave Gideon and his 300 men a mighty victory over the Midianites. So whenever you look at this, you remember that they blew the ram's horn and shouted, a sword for God and for Gideon, and then they shattered their clay jars, and then light from the torch.
Yeah.
So that was our lesson for today, and with this we're supposed to remember that God is always fighting for us, and because of He's always fighting for us, we will always be victorious. So that's our lesson for today.
Until next time.
Bye.